I think first we have to understand how much impact a manager has on the people that they oversee. Research shows that for almost 70% of people, their manager has more effect on their lives than their therapist, their doctor, and it's equal to the impact of their partner. And yet, corporations don't train managers usually, and they don't pick people to manage who actually like managing.
Hello, and welcome to the Shift Your Day Job podcast. I'm Brittany Cates, your host on this incredible journey of career transformation. Get ready for inspiring stories, valuable insights, and a roadmap to shift your mindset towards a more fulfilling professional life. In each episode, we explore the remarkable journeys of individuals who made a career change, offering motivation, strategies, and the confidence to pursue your dreams. Whether you're feeling stuck, contemplating a change, or just seeking a dose of inspiration, this podcast is your weekly companion. Tune in every Thursday as we uncover the secrets to shifting your day job. Welcome to another episode of the Shift Your Day Job podcast. Before I introduce today's guest, I've got something special to share with you. If you're feeling stuck and overwhelmed in the job search, I know how frustrating it can be to endlessly scroll through job boards only to feel like you're getting nowhere. That's why I created a free mini course to help you shift from confusion to clarity and avoid the one big mistake that may be holding you back. In this training, I'll guide you step by step through the exact strategy you need to make your career transition with confidence. No more second guessing your qualifications or feeling stuck in a cycle of random job searching. You'll learn how to focus on your strengths, align your passions with your next opportunity, and create a job search plan that actually works. By the end of this course, you'll have a clear, actionable roadmap to start landing the career you've always dreamed of without the overwhelm. If you're ready to take action and step into your future, DM me on Instagram at Shift Your Day Job with the word mini course, and I will send you the link to get you started on your journey towards a more fulfilling, aligned career. In today's episode, I'm joined by Tosca Fasso, a former Wall Street executive turned self-employed author and podcast host, to talk about her incredible career transformation. Tosca opens up about her experience climbing the corporate ladder, the challenges she faced in the high-stakes world of finance, and the turning point that led her to walk away from it all to pursue her passion for writing and coaching. We dive into the theme of authentic leadership and discuss the profound impact corporate environments have on employees' well-being. Tosca also shares insights from her upcoming book, NSFW, which aims to revolutionize corporate culture by advocating for more compassionate and effective management practices. If you've ever wondered what it takes to leave a high-powered career behind and embrace something more aligned with your values, this episode is definitely for you. Tosca's journey is a powerful reminder that success is not just about the title or the paycheck. It's about creating a life and career that truly fulfills you. So get ready to hear her story and the valuable lessons she's learned along the way. Please welcome Tosca Fasso to the podcast. Hi, Tosca. Welcome to the Shift Your Day Job podcast. How are you doing today?
I'm doing great. Thank you so much, Brittany. It's wonderful to be here with you.
Yeah, I'm excited to chat. We have some things in common, UX design being one of them, as well as mutual connections. I'm excited to hear about your career journey and what got you to where you are today. So if you don't mind jumping in.
All right, well, settle in. I am 55 years old, so it's been a journey. Not quite a year ago, I left the job that was truly, at one point, my dream job. It was an executive position on Wall Street. I grew up in the 80s. That was all about climbing and advancing in New York and shoulder pads. And I loved so much about that job. I loved the work. I was on the user research team. I actually was the head of the user research team. I grew that team from nothing. I loved the people. I loved working my way up from an executive assistant to an executive over the years. Ended up making more money than I ever dreamed of. And as I was climbing the ladder, I did get off of it a couple of times. I wasn't completely linear. At one point, I thought I'm going to be a librarian. So I did get Partway through a library science degree, decided that was for me. I tried entrepreneurship a couple times. I tried writing a book. I had a fashion blog and some other things, but I always went back. I always went back to corporate. Mostly I
Mhm.
was climbing that ladder. And I got my first creative role as a copywriter about 20 years ago. And then that moved into UX. That was like the beginning, the dawn of UX, right? I was one of the first content strategists in California. I was content strategy lead, a director, and then I moved into user research. And I loved that the most. I liked the talking, the listening, the representing the users. At one point when I was a kid, I had wanted to be a newscaster. That was the closest I ever got to being a newscaster because you got someone in your ear, you got someone you're chatting to, you got someone you're talking to, you have a script. I love that about it. But mostly I loved the team part of my work. That was always the kind of the constant for me. I liked nurturing, creating an environment, watching my team members grow, creating opportunities for them. And I had always assumed by the time I got to an executive level, I'd be able to do everything I wanted for my teams, give them the salaries they wanted, give them the promotions they wanted. And that wasn't true. You actually can't do that. And you don't have the power to pay them what you think and know they deserve. You don't have the power to promote them when you know the time is right. And that wasn't my reality, and I realized it wasn't just not my reality, it was really no one's reality unless you have your own business, and I had team members they were incredible. They were better than I was. They had master's degrees. They were changing the trajectory of the company, and they were getting paid less than new people coming in, and I had to hit hard, go to bat for them, and sometimes I won and sometimes I didn't, and then it got harder and harder as I think a lot of stuff has been going on in the corporate world where lots of tightening, lots of layoffs, lots just debates around return to office policy and all that kind of stuff. And things just got to a point where honestly it broke my heart. And I went to try to get exceptions for my team to work from home on days they had interviews, and they just weren't having it.
Yeah.
And instead of it being like, oh, well, we'll consider that, it was more like, Tuffy, you're so annoying to ask for that. Who do you guys think you are? And I'd always been one of those people who felt beholden to corporate America. But I loved work, as I mentioned. I had an unorganized and confusing childhood. And at one point, I was married to an abuser. And work was the place that there were rules. It made sense. I was good at it. I loved the people. I even loved the after hours stuff. Like, I'm an extrovert. Like, I'll do karaoke with you till 2 in the morning. I'm not even a night person, but I will make an exception for karaoke. But work gave me friends, a paycheck, and enough to leave a person like an abusive husband. And I had a couple houses and things were pretty good. And so always was just like, wow, I'm grateful to have this opportunity to have these kinds of jobs. And then all of a sudden I was like, oh, wait, this is why people don't like corporate America. I had never experienced that. And I knew it was right for my team and it didn't matter. Not only did it not matter, no one wanted to hear it at all. So I left. And honestly, it turned my world upside down.
Yeah.
Yeah. But I'm in a much better place now, and I have a lot of exciting things on the horizon, including talking to you and being out there on the podcast circuit. So, yeah, that's my journey.
What are you doing right now?
Okay. So, right now, I have my business, and it's Manager on a Mission. And Manager on a Mission is a podcast, a movement, a book. The book has actually got a different name, which we can talk about later. But my mission is to rework the workplace so that the scenario I just told you about isn't everybody's story anymore. I feel like I know managers have so much impact on people's lives. And I think it can be used in a much more constructive way for our teams. I don't think we have to lead with fear and intimidation anymore. We can lead with trust and empowerment, and we can not just get the same results, we can get better results and have happier people. And that's what my work is all about.
Yeah. So, what you mentioned that it turned your world upside down to walk away, which
Yeah.
makes sense when you had such a positive experience and a loyalty, and this was your reality for so long.
Yeah.
To then your reality is like completely like
Completely.
flipped on its head, and
Yeah.
then you walk away, right? So can
Yeah.
you
So
talk a little bit
imagine,
about that?
yeah. So imagine a life where, even though I said 30 years in corporate America, I started working when I was a teenager. For some of the confusing, chaotic childhood things, it was easier for me to work. I worked full time all summer. I worked full time on spring break and winter break. Like I was out of the house in the shoulder pads, doing the job, right? And that's a very regimented life. You're up early, you're in meetings, the life is constructed for you. And whether or not you like every rule, there's rules. And they used to be more logical. And you get a paycheck when you're good at stuff. Like you show up and you're like, I'm good at this. Yes, I can lead a meeting. Yes, I can do somebody's performance review. I can do a presentation in my sleep. Like I know those things. And imagine you have that, well, more than 30 years of that. And then all of a sudden you wake up and you're like, oh my God, it's light out. It's late. What am I doing? Get up, Tosca. Go do things. You're lazy. What are you going to do all day? This is ridiculous. Oh, and also you don't have a paycheck. What is wrong with you? There was a lot of reckoning with my decision to have left a successful situation, paid really well, and where I was good at it. And all of a sudden, I'm not good at this. I know what I'm doing. Also, I was lonely, really alone. Writing the book is one of the toughest things I've ever done. It is just you and that screen. And you're looking at it and you're like, oh, I don't want to do this today. But then, like, you quit your Wall Street job to do this. So you better start typing, girl. Every day, I had to figure out my own rhythm and what it meant to be at something again and what it meant to maybe not be good at something, but still do it. And what a schedule looks like that's workable for me that makes me feel I care about being productive. I still do. I don't think I'm ever going to be one of those, it's okay. You don't have to be productive today. I'm less of a task mistress on myself than I used to be. And I am able to gauge progress in a way that is more fair and also, I think, more substantial, right? Progress isn't just a big laundry list of stuff. It's moving my message forward. It's landing on how I want to talk about this thing. I know you do some of this too. And that part for me was really hard. I had been a content strategist and I suddenly I don't even know what my own is. That was so weird to be on the other side of the table because I don't know about you. You get clients and you're like, why are they saying that? They didn't say that on the other page. Now all of a sudden their brand is this, and that's what I'm doing every day on social media. I'm like, why am I using those words? My brand platform. What is my brand platform? What do I stand for? It was so bizarre. It was just so much me, a lot of just me, and I did not like that at first. Yeah. So I don't remember what was the question that you asked. Oh, what was about like my day and how different life has been. Yeah, that probably most of it.
Yeah. I think it's interesting that you said it was just a lot of me. And
Yeah.
I can relate to that it makes me reflect on I traveled to Europe by myself about 5 years ago.
Oh, cool.
And
Wow.
it was like something I'd always wanted to do, like forever. And I finally was just like bit the bullet and just went by myself because I couldn't find anyone to go with me. I was like, let's just do this.
Wow.
And it was just such a good experience to recognize wherever you go, there you are,
Yeah.
because there were a lot of emotions that happened during that trip and a lot of internal revelations and things like that. And I
Mhm.
think that's what I can relate to in the respect of, okay, you walked away from your normal day to day, and yet you're doing something new and all of your same stuff is coming up, right? You're being triggered by these new things.
Yes, you nailed it. So I worked with a coach. Actually, she's the person who did my I call it a rebrand, but really most people had never saw the original brand, but you helped me get my actual brand out there. And she said, we're all recreating our trauma. And I was like, oh shit. All right, for the swear word. That's part of my brand too. Whether I want it to or not, it just comes with me. She said that and I thought, what is she talking about? And then I realized, oh my gosh, she's right. Was it good for me to get up at 4:30 every morning and be bathed in cortisol for 30 years? No, it probably wasn't. I did end up with cancer. It was early stage. I did end up with an autoimmune disease. I have a ton of neck and back injuries from staring at a computer and carrying one all over the place, traveling across the country every month. It was that good for me? No, but I liked it or I knew how to do it. And so I was trying to recreate why. I couldn't help myself, and that was really fascinating to me. My husband has a business too, and easier from the sidelines, I'm watching him recreate his own trauma of never having enough time. And I see him do it with the projects he takes on, build more time in. I said to him the other day, like, what are we doing? We keep recreating our trauma in our business.
Yeah. It's fascinating. Once you hear it or
Yes.
see it, you can unsee it.
And I am getting better at addressing it, not doing it. That's the
Yeah.
ultimate goal. Awareness is the first thing. Yeah.
And the only thing you can do is take it one step at a time. You're not going to be able to just suddenly, oh, look, I have all this stuff. I created it. It's a gradual process. And so giving yourself that grace, I do recognize it and I'm going to take a step to improve it
Yeah.
and knowing that it's not going to be completely gone. And then accepting the rest, right? Accepting what's left until you have taken all the steps that you feel like you got
Yes.
into a place. But
Well, and being kind to yourself.
I just love how relatable that it all is because all of our stuff always comes up, right? In one way or another. So I'm curious, like when you walked away from corporate, did you know what you were going to do next?
Oh,
You
I did. I had already started writing the book. I got myself a book coach.
Okay.
Yeah, and I had started like a month or 2 before. Like, I left in November of last year. I had started writing the book maybe in September. My initial goal was I wanted to do the book proposal the formal way, shop it around to agents, get it published with a publishing house. And the more I looked into that and realized the timing of that, I was like, no, well, I'm going to self publish this. So now my book can come out before the end of this year, as opposed to maybe 2 years from now. And
Oh, wow.
a part of my book hinges around all the conversations that are happening right now with the layoffs and return to office debate. And I just didn't want that to be a passe subject. I hope for the world that that is a passe subject in a couple of years, that we've moved on and fixed that. But we are still in the middle of it. And so I wanted it to come out and be part of that conversation. Yeah.
Yeah. That's really cool. I know like self-publishing, that's always like the question, right? Am I going to self-publish? Or
Yeah.
am I going to find a publisher? And in this day and age, self-publishing is more of an option, right? So that's really cool that you're doing that.
Yeah, and that was part of an answer to your question about did I know what I was gonna do when I left
Yeah.
it? Yes, I did. So besides the book, I knew I wanted to do a podcast. I knew I wanted to do some coaching and consulting. I also do want to do some talking at people from a stage.
Yeah.
Now that's you gotta have a book, right? You gotta have a platform. But yeah, I knew it for years. But I kept going, "No, you don't want that. No, that's too
Yeah.
scary. Don't you dare. You got a paycheck, you got people you like." Back to the whole thing.
Yeah.
I had written a business book proposal when I was 29, so it was a while ago, and I actually got it in front of a couple of agents who liked it and had some constructive criticism, and of course, because I didn't know as much back then and the internet wasn't as much of a thing back then, I thought that them having criticism was,
Mm.
"Oh, don't quit your day job," and so
Yeah.
instead of realizing, like, 2 people wrote me, and I had no representation or no experience, so I did something was right. But of course, I just ignored that too and get another job. So
Yeah.
I did.
I think it's interesting that you brought up like you talked yourself out of it
Yeah.
for a while and you rationalize, oh no, I like this about it, or I like the people, or it's this paycheck. I think that's so common, especially among people that are like feeling that unrest in their career and yet, oh, but this doesn't make any sense. Or what would people think? Or is this really what's wrong with me? Like, why am
Yeah.
I feeling this way?
Right.
Can you maybe talk a little bit more about like that experience of talking yourself out of it? And then what was the trigger that made you finally accept it?
Yeah. So the talking myself out of it, I think we're all experts in that. We're all taught to not listen to the inner wisdom. And there's a society rewards us for doing that. It rewards us for denying ourselves in a way that maybe isn't all that rewarding ultimately, but it rewards you with status and money and prestige. And you do that usually by following the rules, doing the things you're supposed to do. And the societal pressure is just It's more than most people are willing to confront, and as was the case for me for many years. And so what finally did it for me, I'm gonna be really honest with you and say there were some points in my last year at work where in order to sleep, I had to take a Valium, and I'm like, "Wait." And I didn't do it, like, week after week, but it was, like, once or twice a month. It was starting to get there, and then I had just had one, like, they're left over from neck surgeries and stuff, and I was like, "Oh, I think I still have one." And then, like, the next week, I wanted one again. I was "This Tosca, you can't do this. You can't become a person who needs to take medicine just to do your job. That's not okay." And also, I think just I had enough money with my job. I was saving it, right? And I was in a position of privilege, really, to be able to do that. And I really hadn't been in that position before. And I thought, well, if not now, when? Finally got to the point where I was just like, I'm never going to be okay with myself if I let this be my story. That I continued to deny what I knew was given to me, somehow handed to me, presented to me, downloaded to me. If I continue to ignore that and I see signs that is against my nature, like I have to drug myself to do it, what am I doing?
Yeah.
And I just thought, this is stupid. So I started reading Amy Porterfield's 2 Week Notice. I think sounds like you. I saw your head nod. For listeners who don't know, and she's a marketing, right? The OG, start your own business ladies kind of gal. And I read it and I was like, yeah, I'm going to do this. And in the book, she says, put your quit date on your calendar. I must have read that book like when it first came out. So that was like in springtime. I looked at the calendar and I was like, okay. And I put my quit date for February, this February of this year. And I didn't even make it to that date. I quit 3 months before because my job was, I think, literally killing me. Yeah.
Thank you for being so like open and honest about that. I think it's
Yeah.
important for people to
Thanks.
hear. And I like that you pointed out I was doing things that I knew were against my nature, were against who I was and what I valued. And I think that's important to once you recognize it, it's like, oh, okay, now what? But
Yeah.
not ignoring it or not pushing it to
Yeah.
the side because this is your health and this is your well being, right?
Yes. I mean, it's my life. And I think I can also say another way I was able to do it is I have a supportive partner. This husband, unlike the other husband, he saw it too. And he was like, what are you doing? You need to quit. This is not okay. You have this book. It's great. You're a good writer. You've wanted to do this forever. Like, when are you going to do this? And he said, I remember him saying this to me. If you don't quit this time, because there were other times I had thought I need to. He said, "If you don't do it this time, you and I are gonna have a problem." I was like, "Oh." Like, I don't wanna do this again. I don't wanna be with you like this. So, not everybody has that.
Yeah.
A lot of people, like I was, a lot of people have a person who says, "Are you gonna quit your job? What are we gonna do?" When I wanted to go back to library school, wasn't the best decision. But I didn't know that until I did it.
Yeah.
At the time said, "Oh, so we're all just gonna quit our jobs and go back to school?" And I was in my 20s and he was in his 40s, so that was part of the problem too. Power imbalance kind of situation, but for people who don't have a supportive partner, it can be really hard to get out of that, and you just constantly having to deny yourself. Really difficult.
For sure. Yeah. Because everybody's situation is so different. And I talk a lot about having a support system, having a community. If you don't have the partner, then that is supportive, then finding people in the industry or doing what you're doing
Yes.
to get lifted up by and inspired by and to commiserate with and have those commonalities so that you do have. I remember talking on one of my last episodes about how if you don't have an example of someone doing the thing you want to do, then you're totally like, oh, that's not realistic. But if you can find people that are doing what you want to do, then it like puts this light off in your brain. Oh, it is like I could do if they can do it, I can do it.
Yes.
And so finding those people that are inspiring you and that
Yeah,
you dip
I
into.
waited a little too long to really do that. I was in the Amy Porterfield class last February, and it was only like maybe 6 weeks, but in it, I was energized and I loved it, and I didn't realize there were these other it takes a while to find them. There were these other communities out there to join. Now I'm in 3 of them. Because again, I am an extrovert, but at first, without them, I did not like this life. I did not like it. I was like, "I don't know if I can do this. I might even need to get a part-time job just to be with people." But now I have this, and like you said, it's not just the community, it's seeing the examples of possibility, and then also a roadmap for how to do it, or even connections, like, I wouldn't be here talking to you if I weren't in one of those groups.
Yeah.
I don't know how I would find all of the people that I need for this new part of my life without those communities, and they are really uplifting and also really practical. It's both. Yeah.
Yeah, it's amazing the opportunities, the resources we have now. And
Yeah,
we can find groups like that.
really cool.
Oh, maybe more easily than once upon a time.
Oh, yeah, yeah, definitely. And it's better than just a Slack community, you know what I mean? Like, it's
Yeah.
real community. There are message board components, but then there's real life get-togethers in some of them, masterminds, work shares, and support. They're all over each other's Instagrams, helping each other out. It's pretty amazing.
Yeah, it really is. I went to a podcast summit May, and it was unlike anything I've ever experienced being in a room full of women who were supportive and loving and just like this sense of community. I was just like, this is
So
so cool, you
yeah.
know?
It makes you
And
feel like you're not this outcast that I think a lot of traditional society, as we were talking about earlier, has made these kooky entrepreneurs out to be.
yeah, I'd love to talk a little bit about some of your messages that you to share on your podcast and your book. You mentioned some topics like millennials and Gen Zs becoming great leaders. And also, are you able to be a leader yourself as your authentic self?
Right, I'll do my best to be concise. You cut me off of this much, but let's talk about millennials and Gen Zs. I'm Gen X. I know that most Gen Xers and boomers have a different way of being at work. I hope I am not like that, that I have always aspired to be able to be relatable and modern in my management approach. I think first we have to understand how much impact a manager has on the people that they oversee. Research shows that for almost 70% of people, their manager has more effect on their lives than their therapist, their doctor, and it's equal to the impact of their partner. And yet, corporations don't train managers usually, and they don't pick people to manage who actually like managing. So think about the effect that this is having in corporate America, right? Managing needs to evolve. In my experience, the command and control type of leadership that a lot of boomers and Gen Xers grew up with, and I know that doesn't apply to everybody. These are generalizations, but the type of pervasive management in corporate America is follow instructions, don't ask a lot of questions, and I will weigh in on your performance later. And then I'll tell you what you did wrong. Work has changed, but management in a lot of cases hasn't. Work is much more complex than it used to be. Companies merge, they offshore. Corporations have different heads of departments vying for control or the message. And employees are stuck in the middle of all of this with these projects that you start them and 2 weeks later, they're different. They disappear. No, we're not doing that anymore. But this is hot. This is hot now. And then all of a sudden, no, that's not hot. This is hot. Here's a fire drill. So and so needs that. They're constantly being pulled back and forth with these conflicting priorities. Juggle it, manage it. Try this, be lean, all this kind of stuff. Do more with less. I'm like tap dancing over here. And so what are managers doing if they're not helping their team members navigate this? And they often are not helping their team navigate this. They're saying, you just need to prioritize. That's not helpful, is it?
Yeah.
How about, hey, Brittany, let's sit down. I know I said there are 5 things we're working on right now. Let me help you identify the one thing that really is going to matter this week. And let me show you what I would do to get enough traction on the other ones that you can proceed through your day without working all night long. Let me show you how I would do that. This kind of management where we are coaching instead of handing off and correcting is what I talk about in all of my work and what I see millennials doing and what I know works with my teams. And it is not a perform or be liked. It's you get both. Because think about it. If I just give you 5 projects, I'm like, I don't know, deal with it. And then the next week, I'm like, why did you spend so much time on this one when that one mattered more? Did I get better results from you by just dropping those off instead of spending maybe 30 minutes with you to
Yeah.
give you the priorities and guide you and say, this person will be really helpful. Actually, you know what? Don't work on that one. I just talked to so and so over here, and that's not really happening. This is noise, right? This is noise. We need managers to filter the noise, not pass it down. Otherwise, like, just step aside. Don't take it and hand me the same garbage. Like, filter the stuff so that I know what's real and what's not. A lot of my approach is about that. It's about keeping the noise, but it's also about creating an ecosystem for your team to thrive. So instead of being a gatekeeper, be a gardener. Be someone who creates the grounds for people to do well. Be someone who understands this is a marigold. This is an orchid. I don't need to do the same things for marigolds as orchids. My people are different and I will tailor my communication to them, care about them as people, not just the troops I hand the stuff off to and here's the marching orders. Instead of that, be part of this system. The system isn't just that kind of metaphor. It's also being able to look at all of the components that create a workday, all of the meetings, the communication tools, the way that we talk to each other and say, are these really helping people to do their best work? And so for me, part of the ecosystem is better meetings. I have a meeting hygiene, which sounds really boring, but I promise meetings, every meeting needs a job, right? A one on one is unfortunately often used as a catch all. Like, I was too busy all week to care about what you were doing. And now I have you for 30 minutes. Sit down and tell me what you've been up to. And here's 3 new things to do. That's often what a one on one ends up being. Instead of, I don't give new work in a one on one. I want to know about career development, how I can help you. What do I need to know is happening so that I can clear a path or talk to someone who's maybe standing in your way or clarify something for you? Or just maybe we just need to talk because we haven't been able to connect. So you need meetings for different things. Like you have the one on one is for career development. The resourcing meeting is for ingesting all of the noise that I was talking about and deciding, what is my team going to work on? What is worth their time? And then handing off the work in a different conversation. And then team meetings have their own structure and purpose. And if you spend 30 minutes talking about something that only applies to 2 people, that's not a team meeting. And then also having the courage to cancel a meeting. Sometimes you don't have enough to talk about, so you just cancel it or you move it to next week. So you have the care of your team and understanding that they don't need to just hear you talk sometimes. Even as much as you might think that's what they live for, it just isn't true. And I like having all of these different ways to capture what my team needs. I'd like to do a stand up in the morning that was just virtual. Hey, everybody, here's what I'm working on today. Nice to see you. Have a good one. And then everyone else is, I'm working on this. I'm working on that. And what I love about that is I can look at that list. It takes about 30 seconds for each of those people to make their status. And I can look at that status and go, wait, why is he still working on that? Did those stakeholders rope him back in for 3 more interviews? Oh, and so I'll go to his manager and say, hey, I think so and so got roped into more interviews. Can you go shut that down? So sometimes you do need to gatekeep, but you're not gatekeeping because you don't trust your team. You're gatekeeping because you're protecting the access to them. And
Yeah.
I think all those things are really important. So that is a lot of what is in my book, and it's a lot of what I talk about. But I also have my book is really in 2 parts, and that was the second part. That's the manual. My book is also a
Mhm.
manifesto. So there's a lot of management books out there, and they talk strategy and they talk approach, they talk philosophy, but they don't really spend half of the book talking about what is wrong right now and validating that for employees. Gotten off the rails in the particularly the last 5 years, like this whole COVID situation and all of like we talked about the layoffs, the tightening, the lean teams, like this
Mhm.
is weighing on employees. And they don't have a place where they are told, no, it's not you. This is not okay. And here's how we got here. And we do need to fix this and we will fix this. And so that is the first part of the book is the manifesto. So it's both of those things. I think we need both of those things because I think people are waking up every morning, going to work and going, how am I going to do this? This is really hard. It feels combative. They're not getting the raises. They're watching their team members get canned,
Yeah.
the restrictions on where they can work. It's becoming really difficult for a lot of people, and they don't get that support that, "Yeah, you're right." And so I wanted to give that to them too.
Yeah. Yeah, I think it's really important. Again, this idea of feeling like you're not alone or you're not going crazy. Is it just me? No, it's not just you. There is something going on and it's not
Yeah.
okay. Like it's not being handled well and or you're feeling the brunt of it. So, no, I like that. I think it's also, I love that you mentioned it's not just about strategy. It's like validating the issues as they are currently. And I think sometimes with strategy, it's wait, what are we trying to fix here? Why are you introducing
Otherwise
a new strategy?
it's just Band-Aids. If you tell your people to manage up, they can do that forever and a day, and it's not really gonna fix the root of the problem, which is the manager. In fact, it's absolutely the opposite. It shows such disregard for the employee experience to constantly be telling them to manage up. How about instead, managers manage down? Because aren't they the manager? Just
Yeah.
I had a debate about this with someone on my podcast who is a fantastic leader. And so she saw it as something a little more benign. Oh, I'm really busy. And so I might not know all the great ways to praise you. Tell me all the cool stuff you did, which is a really nice way to ask people to manage up. Like, I want to hear from you. But manage up is also being used to weaponize having a really crappy manager who doesn't do anything to care about their team and just making it their employees' problem. We have a lot of language in corporate America that says, hey, we have a lot of disdain for you people. Feedback. Are we machines? Feedback? That I have a whole episode in my podcast about the problems with feedback. Feedback is a gift. Is it? Depends who's giving it to you and how they give it to you and the support they give you. It's not just a gift. It really sometimes can be absolutely poison. So if someone
Mhm.
comes in uninformed, no context, and no goodwill to help you, that's not a gift. That
Mhm.
is weaponized power
It's true.
instead of, hey, Brittany, I know you really have been working on blah, 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 blah in your career. I want to talk to you about how I can help you with this one thing I saw you doing that I think could be a little bit better. Are you okay if we talk about that today in our one on one? Cool. Let's do that. Instead of, I don't know why you did that. That's not feedback. Yeah.
Yeah. Or coming to you and like I've had instances with bosses where they like have come to me and totally blamed me for doing something that they had zero context around.
Yeah. They heard something from somebody else who said,
Yeah.
oh, Brittany did blah, 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 blah. And then all of a sudden they're like, you did that without asking questions, without knowing the situation.
Yeah. And then it's like, why did you do that? And how are you going to change? And I'm like, oh, what? What's
Right.
happening?
Those are not the same thing. That's not the same kind of feedback. That's why I like to call it coaching instead of giving feedback. So we have all these terms that do more with less. Oh, is that thank you so much. How exciting that is that I or with less. Like, why is this a good thing? These are not good things. How about I know that we don't have enough resources. Let me help you.
Yeah, for
Let
sure.
me take some responsibility for
Mhm,
making this a problem that you have to deal with every day. I
mhm.
don't know why we don't do that.
I'm curious, just as you talk, it feels like managers can often be stuck in the middle, right?
Yes.
You're from higher up, they're saying, "These are all our priorities, and this is what we need to focus
Right.
on," blah, and then they're, like you mentioned, filtering it down to your employees,
Yes.
but as the manager, I'm curious, like, how do you balance that? Because I feel like that's one thing that I notice. It's like, "Oh, my manager's great. He does this and this, but also he has to follow this rule that I know he doesn't agree with, and yet
Right.
he's, like, trying to spin it."
Yeah,
Mhm.
that's really good. I don't spin, and I do not recommend that managers spin. I think when you talk about being your authentic self, I believe that with the madness of so many of these policies that do not consider employees as people, that if we want to be people too at work and be our authentic selves and also build real trust with our teams, I think it's okay to say, policy's whack. I don't like this, but I have to do it. We have to do it. Here's why I think they put it in place. If I can see maybe there's some reason they think this is a good idea. And here's how I'm going to help you with that. Here's how we're going to make that uh, have as little impact on your day to day as possible. And meanwhile, I am going to take this up the chain and I'm going to talk about why I think this isn't work and the problems with it. I feel you like this is crazy. I don't like this either. That's what I do. That's what I think managers should do. Otherwise, you're not being real with your people. And like you said, you know it. You know that they don't like it. Stop trying to pretend that this is normal. This is not normal stuff. This is not. It is not okay. And I think we need to say that again to the privilege. I was in a position where I could be okay. Like if they fired me, I was ready for it.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Not everybody is in that spot. I know that. I think there are ways to subtly signal that you're not a robot and to say
Mhm.
with kindness and compassion, I'm going to help you with this policy. I know it's hard. You don't have to be a jerk about it. You don't have to say, F this company. But you don't have to do that. You can say, here's why we're doing it. I know it doesn't maybe make sense completely. I get that. We can talk offline separately. Let's talk about it in our one on ones with you. I want to hear what you have to say. You can still have compassion for your team.
Mhm.
And I think the more privilege and power you have to speak up against it, you should.
Yeah. Thank you for sharing. Yeah, as you talk, I just think of all of my experience.
'Cause we all
Um,
have them, and
yeah,
isn't that when you think about that, why is that everybody's got some corporate trauma? Is that
true.
okay? Are we okay with this? Now
Yeah.
but there's a lot of studies that talk about the silver tsunami or the great retirement, meaning the boomers are en masse going to retire basically by 2030. Now, of course, not every boomer is terrible. Not every boomer is going to retire. Not every boomer can retire. But the idea that there's going to be a generational shift, exodus from the workforce. And what is it? Is 2024. So within, my math is terrible, 6 years, six
Mhm.
years, we're going to have a flip over. So that's a pretty interesting opportunity, really, because Gen X, millennials, Gen Zs, we are now in a position where we are all going to be the majority in the workforce, and we can start to do things differently. And we should start to do things differently. We have this opportunity to just start doing that. Leadership, the fear, the policies, they're all passed down from the top. And the more that, like, I think about this, like people who lead the way that I do, we had people underneath us. So within our little world, things are good. Things are healthy. People feel safe. People aren't stressed every day. And if you think about exponentially that happening across corporate America, we can start to make inroads. Now, I'm not saying that we're going to topple the corporate structure here and be able to change everything. But even if you just do it within your team, isn't that good enough? Isn't that worth it? Isn't that something that is valuable for the people who do have their daily experience with you? You can literally change lives by managing differently.
Yeah. Yeah, that statistic you started off with, that's crazy. So
Yeah.
absolutely. Start where you are, right?
Mhm.
Make impact where you are now, and
Yeah.
you just never know how it's gonna carry on, right, in the
Yes.
future. Because it will influence
Yes.
your people, and then your people will advance, and then they will have an
Yeah.
example
And
to
then they'll
set as
carry
well.
that down and
Yeah.
hopefully perpetuate that. And hopefully it starts to outnumber all of the other stuff.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Awesome. Tell us, like you said, this is a lot of what your book is about. What is the title of your book and when is it coming out?
Yeah. Okay. So the title of my book, again, to signal that this is not your mother's business book, it's NSFW, not safe for work. So it's using the acronym, not safe for work, a good manager's guide to better feeling work in a toxic culture. And like I said, it's got the manifesto and the manual, and it really is about the opportunity we have to lead differently. And I hope it will be out by December. It's done. I have it with the early readers right now, have some edits to make and layout to do, and then hopefully that'll be it. You can pre order it on my site, actually. You want me to talk about all of that stuff?
Yeah,
Okay.
sure.
Okay. So my site is myname.com. And it took me a while to even do that, to get a site that was my name. I was so afraid of doing that. And it wasn't my name for 6 months, but it is now. It is my name. You can go there. You can also get my free Good Managers game plan, which has a lot of the techniques that I use. It's got things you can do this week to make things better for your team, this month, this quarter, this year. So a checklist of ways to create better feeling work right now for your team. And you can get that on the first page of my site. Just enter your email and you can get my book on the book page. And I also have a podcast, Manager on a Mission.
Amazing.
Yeah.
Awesome. This has been such a great conversation.
Thank you so much for having me. It was really great talking to you.
Thank you so much for tuning in today, and a huge thank you to our guest for sharing such valuable insights. If you enjoyed this episode, please take a moment to leave a review. Your feedback helps others discover the podcast, and it means the world to me as I continue to bring you content that supports your career change journey. If today's conversation resonated with you and you're feeling stuck in a career that doesn't fulfill you anymore, I'm here to help. My one-on-one career coaching program is designed specifically for women who are ready to break free from the grind and discover a career that truly excites them. In our sessions, we'll uncover what's holding you back, identify your true passions, and create a clear, actionable plan to transition you into a career that aligns with your deepest values. You can get in touch with me directly at shiftyourdayjob@gmail.com, or you can connect with me on social media at shiftyourdayjob. I'd love to hear from you and support you on this journey. Until next time, I'm your host, Brittany Cates, and together, let's shift your day job.